This is my leak. This is the podcast. Last week, a listener wrote about feeling lost at 42, a sentiment that's all too common and one I have discussed many times before on this podcast. It is not unusual to experience a sense of disorientation or a yearning for change at various stages of life. Today, we are going to dive into this feeling. We are going to explore the societal pressures, personal expectations, and some potential pathways to rediscovering a sense of direction and purpose. So whether you're tuning in at 42, 22, or 62, I hope this episode provides valuable insights and a sense of camaraderie, because we're going to dive in and explore how we can move from feeling lost to feeling found one step at a time. So here's my letter. Dear my leak. Okay. Woo. I feel lost. There, I said it. I have been in the social work field for the last 11 years and am desperately craving change. I'm over it. I just turned 42 last month, and I'm kind of scared about pivoting into a different field, but I am always up for a challenge. The problem is that I don't know what I want to do, and I feel like I should know at my big age. I do know going back to school is not an option because I simply don't want to and don't desire to. I've been racking my brain about what I need to do and jotting down different things I enjoy doing. I've been looking for a fully remote job for months because commuting to an office is draining me mentally and physically. I found some different roles that piqued my interest, but I haven't landed one yet. What I know for sure is that I want a job that pays me well enough to live comfortably while enjoying the things I love to do. I love traveling, working out, reading, and being in nature, word search. Should I really be looking for a new job if I don't know what field I want to work in next? I had this conversation with my cousin, and he said it's okay to not know what I want to do next, which made me feel a little better. I would appreciate any feedback you can provide me with. All right, let's do this. A few things stuck out in this letter, but I'll just start by saying you aren't alone with these feelings. I could easily point you to some of my highest performing podcast episodes, like number 99, about this very topic. It is not uncommon to feel lost in life. Now, I don't know that you'll feel any less lost by the time this podcast is over, but here's my hope. I am hoping that I can leave you with some invitations to lead you to a place of greater life satisfaction. When I got this email in my inbox and saw the age 42, I thought about how often I get emails and questions with the age included. I've seen emails like this with the same title, and the ages range from between 19 and 50. Now, I can't get into my spiel without talking about the U-curve first. There's some controversial research out there called the U-curve that states that we're happiest in our 20s, and then that starts to decrease into our 30s and 40s. They say that age 47 is when life satisfaction tends to ebb lowest, and that it flips in your 50s when you start to swim with the current instead of against it. Many of us know that as the quote unquote midlife crisis. This research is controversial because it doesn't account for health, relationships, or financial stability. All three of those things significantly affect our overall life satisfaction. And so I thought about that, thought about your age, and thought about this U-curve. And so when I read things like this, I can't help but zero in on health, relationships, and financial stability. And that's where my mind would spend the most time. And maybe I'll do a separate podcast about on those topics alone, because I think When you have those three things in place, it at least sort of changes the way we view things. And so I'll get back to that. But before we get down to the nitty gritty, those invitations I mentioned, let's spend some time talking about how society and culture make our heads spin around time and age. I like sharing these kinds of things because what I have found in my journey is that knowing at least a few things why this mystery we call life, knowing why certain things happen, helps me make peace. I feel less alone. And so I feel like these societal and cultural sort of facts that I'm going to lace you with, I want to lay these out for you. So the idea that people should know certain things by specific ages is deeply embedded in our societal norms and expectations. I am talking about the United States of America. This is in our culture, okay? So you didn't make this up. Children are expected to achieve certain things at certain ages, such as walking, talking, reading, potty learning, potty training, and social skills. That's one of my favorites. It's like with my first child, the potty training, I remember going to the pediatrician when my son was 18 months. We were doing our checkup. And I was telling the pediatrician about how I had gone to Target and got my little potty situation. And he was like, put it away. And I'm like, what? And he was like, boys tend to potty learn closer to the age of 3. And in my mind, I'm like, changing diapers at 18 months is much different than 18 weeks or 18 days. Those of you who have children, But that just helped me sort of settle into my timing. And then here's the crazy thing with my daughter, her school taught her earlier because they do sort of like autonomy first. And they're like kids who learn how to take their shoes off and on and their clothes off and on learn faster. Either way, society puts this stuff on us and we expect our children to learn things quickly, move, right on pace, because that's what society says. Next thing, educational systems are structured around age-related curricula. Students are expected to master specific knowledge and skills by certain grades, which are typically aligned with their age. Societies establish legal age thresholds for voting, drinking, driving, and other responsibilities. Economically, there are expectations about when one should achieve certain milestones, such as finishing school, finishing college, entering the workforce, buying a home, or even retiring. Society says what age we should consider retiring. Think about that. These are often based on traditional career paths and economic conditions that are no longer universally relevant, but still influence these expectations. Now, social comparison is a significant factor. We all live online now. You know this. People often measure their progress against peers, which can establish informal benchmarks for achieving certain milestones. Think marriage, career advancement. You see your friend from high school, you both graduated at 18. Why is it in 5 years this person has five titles higher? You get it. Cultural stories and media portrayals reinforce these timelines for life events, which create and perpetuate expectations that feel normative, normal, and prescriptive. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So we are not guilty. As human beings, we like having a sense of order and predictability. It helps us organize and plan life. However, these qualities can also lead to pressure, stress, and feelings of inadequacy when our life path doesn't line up with society's expectations. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about 42, the age 42, and what you are making it mean. What are you making it mean? What are you making 42 mean? And if you want to, listener, or anybody who's listening, who's feeling like I am age, insert the blank, and I'm lost behind this, that, or the other, I want you to get a journal. I want you to write down on paper, what am I making age, insert the blank, mean? What does 42 mean that 22 couldn't mean or 52 can't mean? It doesn't have to mean anything. I don't love the saying, for my big age. I don't love that saying. And let me tell you something. If somebody once wrote that or said that about me, and I literally lost it, because why are you unnecessarily judging yourself? Let's put some self-judgment on hold and swap it with some self-compassion. I need you to remember that suffering, failure, and imperfection are a part of the collective human experience. We don't need to judge ourselves like this. I want to share some of the things that rang crystal clear in this letter, where your internal compass, that thing inside of you responsible for setting the direction in your life, was beeping loudly. Before I do that, I just want to segue for just a second and just remind you that I don't have your answers. Anybody listening, I don't have your answers. What I like to do when I read these letters is play your answers back to you, because you know everything that you need to do, and you have it all inside of you. And I know what you reach out to me for is to facilitate me pulling this out of you or finding this within you. These are not my answers. These are your answers. So what this letter told me, I know I'm not going back to school. I know that much. I don't want to, and I don't desire to. Amen. This is what else you told me. What I know for sure is I want a job that pays me well enough to live comfortably while enjoying the things that I love to do. That's not you. I want you to know, when you say things like this, you are not asking for a lot. This is not outside of the realm of possibilities or expectations for your life. Next, you said, I love traveling, working out, reading, being in nature, word search. And then you said, should I really be looking for a new job if I don't know what field I want to work in next? Yes, you should. Because you said loud and clear, I am desperately, you didn't say I'm craving change. You said I am desperately craving change. And then you back the sentence up with, I'm over it, exclamation mark. That's your answer. Yes, you should. So let's start thinking about layers that you want to change. Before I recorded this podcast, as I sat down at my desk, this analogy just sat on my head and my heart. And so I'm going to share it. I was like, sometimes when we want to change things and it pops into our head, or we make this decision, or it's like, you know what, it's been brewing, you've been driving on this highway for 10 years and now you want to get off. You're in the number one lane, or the diamond lane. That's what we call it in LA. You're in that fast lane. And now you're like, I got to get off. I got to exit. And what it feels like is that you got to just hit it hard across 5 lanes. You're not even looking. You're just like, I got to get off. And sometimes that's how it feels. But the truth of the matter is, we can put our blinker on. We're going to use our blinkers, guys. We're going to look over our shoulder. I'm going to allow you to use the mirror. You can reflect. Go ahead and look and see what's coming. And lane by lane, we are going to merge. And here's the deal. We might miss our first exit, but we are not stuck on the highway. We may have to detour, but we can get to where we're going. So the first layer of change came to me like this. Change could be moving to another department within the same company. Maybe I like this company. I like this element of social work, but maybe I want to do something else. Change could be moving to another company within the same field because all things are not created equal. Change could be another company in another field, which is what you said you wanted to do. Now, there are various ways to approach change. Instead of leaving the field of social work, I'm only saying this because we're putting the blinker. This is us putting our blinker on. We don't have to hit the exit so fast. Putting our blinker on. Instead of leaving the field of social work, you could combine it with your love of traveling and work for organizations like the United Nations, the World Health Organization, or maybe a nonprofit like Doctors Without Borders. Now, I know there are probably tons and tons and tons of companies that do things like this, but these were the first that came up in the search because that's what I did. Or you could be a cultural exchange coordinator, which sounds fun. The options are vast. Do some searches of combining travel and social work if that's where you want to put the blinker on first. You could combine social work and working out or exercise and become a recreational therapist or a fitness trainer for a specific population or a wellness coordinator. Now, I want to point this out that you may not necessarily have to go back to school for these things, but you may have to learn something new, a course, a class, something like that, where probably won't feel like school because you're learning something that you actually want to know. I'm sharing these ideas because we can merge our way out of something we no longer want to do without jumping out cold turkey or running up against the wall of having no experience in a field while still wanting to be paid well enough to live comfortably. When we can lower the volume of self-judgment, we make room for creativity. When you're applying for something and you have self-compassion versus self-judgment, and I've talked about this before, but if you are interested in learning about self-compassion, go to selfcompassion.org. There's a therapist named Kristen Neff. I believe her name is last name Neff. She's excellent. Her books are excellent. Her website's excellent. She has a quiz, I think, on how to develop more self-compassion. But when you're applying for something with self-compassion versus self-judgment, I bet the email reads better. I bet the conversations amongst friends sounds better. I bet the interviews will likely go even better because you have no shame about the fact that you're ready to do something else regardless of your age. I also feel the need to point out the best resource for finding another job is going to be your friends. Now, 11 years is a mark of completion for you. And if you are open to it, that is all it has to mean. I want to thank you for sharing your journey and your feelings with all of us today because number one, it's courageous to do that, to express uncertainty and a desire for change. And I want you to know that you are not alone because many people across a wide range of ages feel similarly at different points in their lives. Now let's wrap some things up. I hope by now you've gained a little bit more clarity or at least some encouragement. And I want to say this, life's timeline does not have to follow a predetermined path. As a number, age is often burdened with societal expectations that can overshadow our own personal truths and aspirations. Remember that U curve I talked about? While it is controversial and limited, it highlights an essential point. Our satisfaction in life can fluctuate, and many factors, not just age, can influence it. Now, if we go back to your letter and that internal compass and you knowing who you are, it is clear that you know what you don't want. You're not going back to school. And you know what you do want? A job that pays well and allows you to enjoy your passions. These two things are significant and will be able to guide you towards a life that feels really good to you. Change doesn't have to be drastic. It can be incremental. It can be the blinker. It can be looking over my shoulder. It could be going one lane at a time. and still lead to improvements. So even as I'm on that highway and I haven't made my exit, getting out of that fast lane, slowing down one lane to another, that's change. That's change. Your life is getting better. And so consider how your interests can intersect with your personal life. If my first layer didn't sound sexy to you, keep pushing that. Whether you want to leverage your love for travel and social work into a global opportunity or merge fitness and social work into a role that promotes wellness, there are numerous paths to explore. If we took, all the different ways and combinations of like everything you like, word search and this and social work and that, we can use that decade. Like, let's let that decade of experience work for us. As you move forward, as often as you can, replace self-judgment with self-compassion. Approach this transition with curiosity and openness and allow yourself to explore without the pressure of figuring everything out. Ultimately, the goal is to align your career with your values and passions. And I encourage you to take small, actionable steps toward this alignment. And I trust that each step will bring you closer to the clarity you're looking for. So thank you again for your letter and for allowing me to share your journey. I'm rooting for you, and I hope you find the path that brings you the greatest joy and fulfillment. Until next time, y'all, if you want me to answer your letter, email me at the link on my website, my.you.com.